blanks are what go onto the lathe itself, because we can't take, this would be cumbersome to put on the lathe itself, and we would make a lot of waste. So what we do, I drew on here basically the lines for where I cut to make as many blanks as possible. So really, we need something that's going to, it's going to turn into this. So we need something that is going to start, roughly as wide in this direction as it is thick in this direction. So you'll see we can get definitely one here, one here, one here, usually one here, and then occasionally we'll get like a little bonus one depending on the shape of the butt that we're starting with. So you can kind of see this is the easiest one to see, and then we'll basically be turning this into a circle on this dimension here. But then like this piece, while it's like a fun shape, there's not much we can do with it on the lathe. So as Shane was saying, this might go to some other folks to turn into signs or crosses or different things like that. And to do that, we in a mobile situation, we would use something like a scroll saw like this. This has a blade that moves up and down vertically this way. This is really a tool mainly used for very delicate work for jewelers and things like that. But the other tool that we use is a bandsaw, which is usually, the one I have is close to 400 pounds and it's taller than I am, so it's not easy to move onto a site like this. Yeah, so that's about basically preparing the blanks. And then I'll show you how we then take this and put it between the centers on the lathe. This is a wood lathe. There are also metal lathes, but wood lathe is what we're going to use today. The basic anatomy of the machine is that we have the motor here that's going to spin this we call the center. The tailstock here can move up and down the bed of the lathe, like so. So I'll often make, chair legs or table legs or things like that.
Rolling pins.
Rolling pins, yeah. Bowls you can also do on the lathe. Even this mallet, which has seen better days, but it once was on the lathe here. So the first thing that we're going to do, these are called centers, and so we need to find the center of this piece. And it's, instead of trying to eyeball it here, we're going to, for speed and efficiency, I'm going to take a Forstner drill bit that's roughly the circumference of the finished shovel handle, and I'm going to basically find the center here like so, and then I'm going to give it, a nice little hit, and so there I have a little hole for my center. Do that on the other side. Now we're good to go. So I'm going to make one pretty quickly here, and then Kristen is going to kind of take it through the steps a little bit slower as I kind of talk over what she is doing. So I lock the tailstock in place. This tightens down between our two centers. Get it nice and tight. I'm going to do most of this with just one tool. This is called a roughing gouge. It's really the main tool on the lathe when you're turning spindles. And you can see it will do, as its name suggests, rough work, but it'll also can be used for some of the fine stuff too. So the basic process here is that I'm taking that square that we started with, and I turn it into a cylinder, and then I pick out my shovel blade that we saw how it gets made earlier. Basically the barrel of the gun opened up, and I'm going to take my calipers here and measure the inside of that barrel. So now I know exactly how thick that I need to make, essentially like the wooden tenon or tang that's going to go inside of that shovel. And I'm going to do that with our second tool here. It's called the parting tool. And I'm going to measure basically the depth, or the length rather, of this here and make a mark. And then take my calipers and cut exactly to that, just so my calipers slip over it. So now I've got that like precision piece done, and I'm not really going to touch that portion of it anymore. Now I'm basically going to make a shape that is going to fit nicely in your hand. So there's going to be a little bit of a, would you grab me one of the finished ones? A little bit of a bulb on one end, so that you have like a place for your thumb to rest, basically, up here. And then a bulb on the other end that kind of fits nicely into your palm. Patience, care, steady hand.
Yeah, experience. A lot of,
Experience.
I've been, wood turning is a newer skill of mine that I've been learning, kind of like Shane, lots of humility, lots of cracks and things, and it's really easy to gouge it. So the edge of the chisel, you need to make sure the bevel is on it so you don't tip it too much, and then the wood catches it and ruins the piece. But
And
Greg has been doing it for a
visually,
long
there's a
time.
couple cues you can use, really.
Yeah.
You can actually see that there's a little bit of a flat on the on one face here. That's from one of the flat sides of the rectangle that we started with in the beginning. So that's basically how I determine how wide, at the widest points that it's going to be. I think sometimes it's, with these tools, they're meant to be used. They don't have to be extremely, it's not about making the most polished thing possible, but we do want it to be comfortable. So showing a little bit of the marks of the process, I think, is, it's part of the whole experience. And then for the narrower points, I'm basically kind of drawing a line visually through the whole shovel as it's going to be, and this is basically going to be my narrowest width. So I kind of approximate that in the center of the tool handle here too, just for a nice little visual cue. And then we're going to use a little bit of a oil and wax finish. This is basically raw linseed oil, which is actually like a dietary supplement in some ways, and it's beeswax and a little bit of citrus-based solvent. But basically, this is all natural and food safe, and it's nice and thick. And then I'm going to take, this is just a Scotch-Brite pad. And I'm going to use the spinning of the lathe to basically heat up that wax enough to melt it into the handle. And that's about it. See, we'll take this off of the lathe. We've got this little hat on top of it that usually there's little enough of it that I can crack most of it off like that. And then I'm just going to take a blade and whittle the little chips that still stand out. And now, as long as I did everything right, we should be able to slip that right onto our shovel. So, and then usually before these get shipped out, I'll use a little bit of epoxy resin or a super glue or something like that to kind of bond the wood to the metal. Because as it is, you saw me kind of push it on there, but you can pull it off just as easily. So. And that's it.